This meeting is being recorded.
Greetings and welcome to Pride of Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus of the Olympian Arcanate, and today I'm speaking with Admiral Bob Vosseller of the USS Challenger. He is also an officer of high repute and high position in Starfleet's Region 7. Greetings and welcome, Admiral. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. It's been a long week, so this is great to come and spend some time with you and relax.
The same here, and I hear that there is a Farpoint event happening this weekend as well.
Yeah, it's an exciting weekend for fans in general, and certainly Starfleet in particular, because I'd say a good portion, maybe not the normal crowd that would normally go there, but a sizable amount of Starfleet members are down in Maryland at the Hunt Valley, whatever the hotel is called these days, because it changes names almost every year. But Farpoint is always sort of like Shore Leave Light. It's the winter version of Shore Leave, less people, bit more low key, but lots of fun. And that's where some of our mutual friends, Wayne and several others are. I was originally supposed to go, but ended up having to work tomorrow. So they're going to be there. I can't tell you who the guests are because the guests were changing constantly. It's supposed to be Brent Spiner, but some other folks are there. And I don't feel too bad because on Sunday, as I said, before the show started, I'll be heading close to your patrol sector for Collector Fest in Wayne, New Jersey, at something called the PAL, and they have some guests. It's a bigger show than say a regular toy and comic book show, but smaller than say a regular convention. Somewhere in the middle. It's only $10 to get in, and they have guests like Gigi Edgley from Farscape. She was also in an episode of Battlestar Galactica, and I believe she was also in an episode of Star Trek Continues. And coincidentally, Vic Mignola, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, who played Kirk in Star Trek Continues, the fan film series, which was absolutely awesome, very well written. Excellent. I think it was, superior in sense. I liked it more than Enterprise. And maybe even Discovery. Very, very accurate. And he's going to be there as well. I've never met him. And it's been a long time since I've seen Gigi Edgley. And I absolutely loved her in Farscape, and I loved Farscape. They also have some artists, Ruby Nubrez, which I'm probably bastardizing the name, and Larry Hama, some comic book artists, and a wrestler who is dressed as a sheik, and that's all I know about wrestling, but he's going to be there, and some other people. So I'm looking forward to that on Sunday. I'm going with members of my chapter, and meeting up with members of the USS Justice, the North Jersey chapter up there, and a member or two of the USS Abraham Lincoln in New York. So it all came together rather impromptu, but it's going to be a lot of fun, and it will make me feel a little better having missed Farpoint, which in honor I wore from the famous 2003. I think I mentioned that previously on the show. One of my most fun con experiences was being snowed in at the Farpoint of 2003, and we were there for several extra days, and yeah. So I dig this shirt out, and I have a sweatshirt version of it as well, because one of the dealers made the best of it and said, and he made shirts and sweatshirts because he was stranded. They were stranded there too, so at least he made a little profit off it. So that was good.
Sounds like a lot of fun. I remember doing the conventions way back in the day, and they were a lot of fun, and it was fun staying at the hotels or in nearby motels, and meeting all these people and sharing rooms because everyone needed a place to crash, and it was a lot of fun. The last conventions that I did were after we left Star Trek fandom. We tried to create our own science fiction fandom. And it was original material, and we were shopping it around to see if we can like sell it, make a TV show or something. And those are fun times. And John Delancey was very helpful in introducing us to people, again, way back in the day. And had a lot of fun. Now a lot of that material that never got used anywhere, I'm weaving it into what I'm doing now, because a lot of it was Olympian. So the original Olympian material, that Olympian material, and new Olympian material are going into what's slowly coming into being right now.
That sounds exciting. And you'd mentioned John Delancey, and again, what a wonderful guy. I still remember our first meeting him at the time and doing the first version of Spaced Out, the more recent being, of course, the wonderful podcast that you engineer and allow me to host. But back then we would go to conventions and, with the big VHS cameras, and we although we had a problem that day with one of the bigger cameras, and we had this tiny little VHS camera. It was embarrassing, but that was what we had. And so we brought it into the con, and something happened with the tripod. We brought the other tripod thinking, oh, this tripod will work on the little one as well as the big one. And no, it didn't. So here we were trying to prop it up while we scored an interview with John. And we were taking a while, and we were sweating, we were embarrassed, and John just looked and said, guys, don't worry about it. He said, yeah, take a book. And he gave us a book or something, like, just prop it up. It'll work. Don't worry. And like Q, he made it happen. So he will be at a convention in April in Center City, Philadelphia area, called the Philly Expo, which is taking over from the old Wizard World cons, which I never got to go to. But they have invited Starfleet to have a table for 3 days, which was very nice, and allow us to come in. A number of us to come in for free, so free is always nice.
It's always good,
and we really look forward to it. And he is one of the guests. William Shatner is one of the guests. David Tennant is one of the guests. Gates McFadden, and a host of other people. It's just amazing. So this opportunity just came out, and boom, so we're excited about that. That will be I think the first weekend of April. So, or maybe the second, the 6th, 7th, and 8th, or something like that, whatever,
I've been seeing commercials on, I guess, the computer. I don't really watch real TV anymore, if it even exists. But on Picard, I see John Delancey and Whoopi Goldberg. So I was very excited to see that.
March 3rd.
It seems that they're coming back to 2024.
Yes.
Time travel. Do you know anything more about that sketchy plot?
Well, I know that obviously something goes awry, and that perhaps Picard and company somehow caused it, or Q caused it, and he's saying, well, you have to go fix it. So he'll be his usual pain in thorn in the side of Jean-Luc, and I would imagine that Picard will find Guinan in that time period, or maybe before they go back in time. I know maybe he looks her up because maybe she was living there at the time. No, she couldn't have been, because it was afterwards that she migrated from her world. So I don't know. I guess maybe she time traveled there with them, and it'll all be explained. But I'm looking forward to that. I am a big fan of Picard. I like to see the continuation of that time period. I'm more excited about that than Discovery, quite honestly. Discovery is one of those shows that while I like, I kind of put it off on the shelf and say, yeah, I'll get to it. But Picard is like must see, like the old NBC must see TV. I'll be catching that like every Thursday, at some point. So.
And I heard rumors that the Kelvin universe is making a comeback. Some of the
yeah, although I also heard that that was almost a surprise to Christopher Pine and the cast, which I don't know if that's true. I think somewhere in the middle was the fact that they've been talking about it with the cast, and then the announcement came out, and maybe not everything's been firmed up. But I'm gonna go on optimism and think that that is actually going to happen. I think sometime in 2023, maybe we're going to see a Star Trek movie with the Kelvinverse and everybody back, except sadly the actor who played Chekhov, and maybe they'll bring the actress who we saw last in Star Trek Beyond would be a perfect transition, because I'm sure they'll set this movie several years after Beyond, because it will be like 5-6 years since then, right? The time spent.
So, yes.
So I think we'll see something like that. I like the Prime universe, but I can appreciate the Kelvinverse and what it's done on the big screen. I like the original Star Trek in 2009. Was not as happy with Into Darkness. I think that could have been better, but it was certainly entertaining. And I loved Star Trek Beyond. I think Star Trek Beyond was actually pretty good and written well, but it just fiscally didn't do as well as the other two did, which I think was one of the reasons why we've had such a delay. And then I think the pandemic delayed things as well. So I'm kind of hopeful that we see that. I think that's part of the Star Trek legacy, is also the JJ verse or the Kelvinverse, whatever you want to call it.
They were hinting in Beyond at Apollo, because they had the green hands. If you blinked, you missed it, but they were there I believe with the credits. Something that they would do something with that story, Who Mourns for Adonis, and I followed the comics as long as I could, and they didn't really pick up on it anywhere. So
I'm sure you would love to see that.
Yes, I'd love to
I
see
would
what
too.
they
I would
do.
too. I think that would be cool.
And I was looking today through all the graphic novels from the Kelvin universe, Boldly Go, and the series of them, and the ones based on the movie. I've like a whole shelf of material related to the Kelvin universe, and it's a shame that nothing's being done in there right now. Discovery, like you, I enjoyed it when I watched it. It was what it was. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. And when they went all the way to the far future, again, they opened up new possibilities.
Yeah.
But again, I'm in no rush to see it.
Yeah, I don't know. I go to the Paramount Plus channel, and then I go to see Discovery, and then all of a sudden I realize, oh, there's another episode of 1883. I'll watch that instead. And then I say the next day or on Fridays when I have off, oh, I'm going to binge watch Discovery finally. And then I've been out of the house most of today doing errands and stuff. And like, yeah, that didn't happen again. So I'll get to it. I'll get to it one of these days. And maybe it'll be more fun that time. Maybe I'll be able to, my wife and I can actually sit down and have some snacks and, binge watch it, a few episodes and stuff like that. But life's complicated, and even though you have the flexibility of picking your time now to watch a show with the streaming services, you just don't always have that time.
No, this is something that's come up on the show quite a bit. There's not enough time to watch everything you want to watch anymore. There's so many things to watch, and now that you have the choice of things that you missed like a decade ago that for whatever reason you couldn't watch them, now you could find them someplace and watch them. It's kind of like you budget your finances. You have to budget your viewing time, because you could literally sit from morning to night and spend all your waking hours looking at content. And
a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, in fact, he's going to be going with me to Collector Fest, was kind enough to allow me to, and I don't think it's pirating. I think I'm just on his account, so I think it's legal. If it's not, then ignore what I'm saying. But I HBO Max or Plus or whatever it's called. So that opens up. Of course, I'm a big DC Comics fan, so I all of a sudden, like, there was a whole flurry of stuff that I couldn't wait to see, like Doom Patrol. And
Right.
and the third season, you know, I saw the first 2 seasons of that show, and I was dying to see the third, and thought, oh, well, I'll just go to the library. And the library, you know, told me, yeah, we don't have the third season. We don't know why. We didn't order it. And I said, what about the third season of Titans? Like, nope, 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 we don't have that. So now I have both. And, you know, I'm sorry, but I'll binge watch a bunch of Doom Patrols before, you know, then before I'll hit Discovery. And I know that probably means I need to turn in my Starfleet card.
No, I don't think so. I enjoyed Peacemaker with what is that?
I have to
wrestler?
catch that. That's another thing. So it's like all
Yeah.
this content, like you said, all this content, all of a sudden another streaming service, and it's like, wow, even more. What am I going to do? And if I had Disney, like, I'd have to quit my job and just sit around the house all day. And I don't think my wife would appreciate that.
No, and Disney
Not
has
to
the
mention we couldn't afford that, but
So yeah, I've been watching the Marvel stuff. The thing is, it's thrown like a monkey wrench into my. I'm a collector. I'm like in my 60s, so I like things physically that I can touch. You know.
yes, me too. And I'm not
um,
that far behind.
So I have like everything up to a particular point, and now like they're not even releasing stuff, or they're releasing it in a very limited way, like Loki and WandaVision. It did come to Target, but I figured I'll wait till it gets a little cheaper, and then it didn't, and now you can't even find it on eBay or Amazon. And when you can get it, it's from another country, and it's phenomenally expensive. So you know you can get it by watching it on TV. So we're slowly switching to watching on TV. But I missed the looking forward to something coming out and watching in the library first to determine if I want to get it or not, and then determining I want to get it, and then getting it, and all that activity generated around getting something is kind of gone with all this streaming. And I know because I've had a Kindle for a long time, that could disappear in a second. You know, like something happened to my Kindle, I remember, and I lost thousands of books from my Kindle. Until I got a new Kindle and a new account, I had access to none of those books. And that was in the beginning of the Kindle. So I'd actually gotten rid of a lot of my books and comics because they were on the Kindle. You know, I could carry them in my pocket until I couldn't. And then it's like, well, this is a good thing to a point, but I'm not going to get rid of anything else because you never know. You know, something happens to Amazon.
I know I'm the same way. And as you know, I work for a media company that produces 7 newspapers. And there are times when the new newspaper comes out and I don't always see the layout, I'll say to my editor, hey, did that story make it into last week's paper? Because, you know, I don't have any access to some of these towns where the print version is out, you know, even though I cover them, I don't always go there, so I don't pick up the paper. And my editor always reminds me, he's like, Bob, you do know that the papers are online. I said, of course I do, but that's not the real to me. When I'm out in that town at a Wawa and I can pick up the paper, you know, that's when I feel like that's when it's real. Yeah. And then he just shakes his head because he's a millennial and I'm not. So
yeah, I run into the same situations also. And even the thing I'm trying to create, like within Star Trek fandom, the world has changed too much, and it's become more and more obvious as I move forward with the project. Information is so available,
yes,
and that it's hard to, like, I remember when we were Klingons back in the day. You had to hunt for fanzines. There were really limited runs and very obscure, and you know there was all sorts of esoteric lore that you could only get from finding certain fanzines and magazines too. You got them in the store, and they only sold for a limited time, and they had articles that were hard to find. And there was all this questing and all this collating of information that wasn't available to anybody with one click away.
right.
So you know you had this whole mystique going where you had this all this lore about whatever it is you were doing, Andorians, Klingons, Romulans, Betazoids, whatever you were creating. And now again, everything is so available that you can just type it in and get the information and satisfy that really quickly without going into anything. So I'm changing the nature of what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, remember, in back in the days, conventions like Farpoint and Shore Leave, you know, they would have a fanzine dealer, and they were always in the same spot. you know, you could walk in and you would, if you were looking for a fanzine, you would dart into the, you know, I could see it in my head right now where it would be, the people behind the table, and you know, all different versions and all different time periods and all that. And you know, that's where you pick up your fanzines. Now that's unheard of. There's no fanzine vendor. And you know, it's because they're online, or they're just not available, or you know, it's you know, it was also another table that would have all the what do you call it, the filk songs and stuff like that. And earlier this week, a very sad note, and I wish I knew the name of the man, but I only saw him maybe twice a year when we're not in a pandemic. But a vendor who had been there for many years, who had sold mostly action figures, you know, Trek, the Buffy, Firefly, all those kind of things. The Mego Star Treks, the new Mego Star Treks. I would always buy at least something from him during a con visit, and we found out that he had passed away. He was a little younger than the two of us, but he was a vendor there for Shore Leave and Farpoint for years, was in a car accident. His wife had died in 2019. She always helped him. And then he passed away in a car accident. Very sad. And,
I'm sorry.
You know, and he will not be at, obviously, you know, it was another loss. I mean, not, you know, as a person, he was very nice, because you wouldn't just buy something from him. You get into a conversation with him, or at least I did, and say, hey, the Mego dolls with the Nurse Chapel. Do you have Nurse Chapel, you know, from the new Migos versions? And he was like, no, they're not making that after all. And, you know, he would give you this insight as to the real story of like what's really coming out, what will come out in the future, what they are making. And he was just a lot of fun to talk to. And it wasn't just a spiel to get you to buy more. And he also gave good bargains too. It's like, oh, you bought 3? I'll give you half off on this one, or a percentage off. You know, he was such a nice man. I was really sad to hear that.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear of his passing. I'm sure if he was around back in the day, I've done business with him also.
Oh yeah,
some vendors.
I'm sure you did. You know, because the Klingon weapons were there. You know, the replicas. You know, the kind of the playmates and the higher scale stuff. He would sell all that stuff. He had like more than just one table. He had like 3 tables in the back of the Hunt Valley. You know, for Shore Leave and Farpoint. It was just, you know, he had a great, you know, business there, and everyone, you know, he was one of the main people that people would just dart to in that inside section, you know, not towards the doors in the hotel, but the inside area. And he would always have a table there, multiple tables there.
Yeah, I remember 2 of the fanzines. There was a lot of, like, for instance, what if Xena met the people from, you know, like the Conan TV show, or what if Xena met Captain Picard on Star Trek? And we've talked before about how the X-Men and the Green Lantern Corps, you know, they made it into more non-canonical but still official type of things. But there were all these fan stories, and some of them were very risque and had all sorts of likely and unlikely relationships between the cast members. So again, it was imagination run rampant. And the rule I remember was, as long as you didn't sell over 500 copies or make over $500, then you're safe from copyright infringement.
Right.
There was some rule like that. So people just wrote these things and had a really great time.
Yeah, it's a lost art. It's another piece of fandom with, you know, you kind of gain one thing, but you lose something else in the translation. You know, like Challenger, I took great pride in putting the newsletter together, but we haven't had a newsletter in more than 10 years because it just wasn't needed anymore. By the time we could share, like you said, all that kind of new news, there was no sense of putting an interview or you know, or a piece of news that came out, because now you do it instantly. You just share it on the actual source there, and you know, it just made newsletters obsolete. And plus the cost of postage went up, and you know, people would get it, you know, you'd mail it the old-fashioned way, And then they would get it, a few days later, and then they would know it already. So,
Right, yeah, because they caught it on YouTube, or
and
by
and
typing
and activities, we would always take pictures of ourselves and do a little write-up of, hey, we did the St. Patrick's Day parade and we marched in it and we have a picture, like now if we were to do such a thing, we would just take pictures, write the little thing, put it on our Facebook page. It serves
and
the
there you
same
go.
purpose. And people would actually, catch it there. So, that's, fandom and time moves on and technology moves on and social, communication aspects change, and we've rolled with it, because what other alternative is there? But it
Yeah,
also brought us things like this this
Yeah.
is a wonderful forum where we could see each other and when, and play with the backdrops and, and stuff like that, and have an audience, and that's remarkable. We, that would be like science fiction to us when we were in fandom in the 1980s, 90s. We never thought, well, hey, we'd have the ability just to have a show, and it's remarkable.
Oh, I remember too, back in the day when I had a show on, as you had a show, I remember I had to pay for studio time and I had to pay for air time, and I had to do all sorts of stuff and try to get like sponsors, and it was really expensive. And now anybody with a computer and a $20 camera, we can launch their own channel. And again, I didn't have to know editing or anything else back then. I had people who did that, so I had my editor, and I had my camera people, and I had my musicians, and and just there'd be conversations where you'd use the names of movies or TV shows that people were familiar with to express concepts, and again, now you don't. And I don't know anything about editing yet. I'm learning, but it seems like something that you could do just with your computer. You don't need any expensive program.
It's amazing. I mean, we back in the day, we pitched in some money and we bought like a switcher. It was a little device like this, because we got the cheap version, but it was still something better. We'd have the old VHS, and we had 2 VHSs, and it took like, I don't even think how long it took us to just edit a scene, and our show was only a half hour long, and we would just basically patch in the interview footage if we had a guest, and do the host parts, and throw in the intro, and stealing an idea from Doctor Who, where we did the opening of Spaced Out by basically pointing the camera at a TV that was on but didn't have a channel or something, so it would have that whirly effect, which is how the original Doctor Who, that's how they did it. They was just aiming it at the camera. And so we did that. And I remembered that's how they did it. I said, why don't we try that? What the heck? And it worked. So, when I think of the little tricks that we had, and the hours of work involved, and that's what ultimately we said we can only do. We continue this show, which we love to do, or we operate as a club, because we don't have time for both. This is consuming so much of our time, and or make it, maybe sporadic or monthly or whatever. And and then it just went away. But through the modern technology and podcasts and all that stuff, it's it's reinvented in a different way, in a different age. So
we were moving in that direction too before we left the fandom. We were moving because we had the web stuff already. We had websites. We had a play-by-email game. We had like all sorts of stuff going on, and we were going to start making shows like you were making a show, but that never came to pass. And then we were doing our own thing with the science fiction. That was a fun adventure, but ultimately it didn't really get anywhere. Then we went our separate ways, and I was going to do a movie. And the movie didn't happen, but a television show came out of the movie idea. So that became, that's how Thor the Barbarian started. And that lasted for like 3 years. It started out as a in studio like talk show, and eventually became like a comedy variety show over time. And I had so many crews filming that I couldn't even like visit any. I used to be able to be right on top of everything. There was no way I could keep track, so I used to have to meet with editors like once a week and just watch what they were doing and make suggestions, and then have people smack it together and then hope that it all came out the way I wanted it by the time it aired. And we were churning out a new hour show every 2 weeks. So that took up a lot of time and a lot of money too. And eventually I had to give it up after the economy started making it difficult to do that, because I was paying for the airtime and the studio time, and it started paying for itself at one point, but then September 11th happened.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, the places that were contributing to advertising, the future was uncertain. Who knew where the money would be needed? So the advertising just stopped suddenly. And so we had to get even creative. We started doing some specials, and then I got a crew together to cover the Lake Placid Film Forum. They invited me after my show was technically dead, and I said I would do a series of shows on their film festival because they invited me. And I just made phone calls until I had people to take down there. Called up bus companies, called up hotels, called up everybody I could think of, and pulled it all together. And that launched like the last season of the show, and that was like the best season of the show because it became a variety show with segments and special
cool.
effects and all sorts of stuff. And we did it for peanuts, but it looked like we'd spent thousands of dollars on every show because I had good people, and I knew what I wanted. But again, it was a fun adventure, and then it finally ended like all things end.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we're doing this now, and we're going to continue doing it. And as we evolve more into VR, because that seems to be where things are heading for the future, according to Zuckerberg and a lot of the gaming companies, it'll be very interesting. We might ultimately be sitting in a 3D conference room on your
Yeah.
bridge, or right to the side of your bridge, and interacting like that. People can put on whatever they put on the goggles, and they could be right there with us. That should be really interesting.
I wouldn't be surprised, and I think it could happen sooner than later.
I think so too. And with all the challenges ahead too, because we're going through some very challenging times. And
Oh, definitely.
I never would have believed the things we've been going through the past few years and things that are happening even today.
Yes. It's
the
been a
news.
rough week as far as, beyond our little bubble of lives, out there. We still have the pandemic, but it's looking better, but there's still issues that are, ahead. Obviously, what's happening in the Ukraine, is devastating and terrible to watch, and frightening. Yeah, and it's just, sad things. Even, Sally Kellerman's passing. 80, at the age of 84, but she was iconic to us as Star Trek fans, and of course those who are MASH fans, from the movie, that and other things that she did. So that was sad, and I happened to had the privilege of seeing her at Shore Leave years ago. And she was an interesting guest. She was a little eccentric, and sporadically she just decided to sing. And
There you go.
Gary Lockwood, who was, had starred with her in Where No Man Has Gone Before, and in the second pilot of Star Trek, just went with it. Just looked at her like, yeah, okay, Sally, But she still was a very engaging guest, and they were smart to put her and Gary Lockwood together on the panel together. They were very memorable. So, but
is that show coming together? The show To Boldly Go?
Yeah. Or you mean Strange New Worlds?
Strange New Worlds, yeah.
That will be coming out in May with Anson Mount and as reprising as Pike and young Spock and Rebecca Romaine as as number one, and they'll have a I'm not sure why they decided to do this, but they're going to have a young Uhura, who I didn't really think was on the Enterprise at the time that Pike was, but I guess she was in this continuity, and an actress who looks very much like Chapel, a younger Chapel, will be on as Nurse Chapel, which is kind of ironic because you have, for the first and only time, two characters that Majel Barrett played will be together in the same show, number one and Nurse Chapel. So I thought that was very interesting. I don't think they're using John Hoyt's character as the Doctor. I think they've, maybe at that point that Doctor had retired, because this is after the events of Menagerie, or Cage. So we're seeing Pike and the Enterprise sometime before, like 10 years before, or before Kirk takes over. So I would think that this series has a finite time span, a few seasons, at most, because of the gap. But then again, these seasons are short, so
Right.
who knows? They could stretch it out for as long as the ratings go or the desire goes. But I'm looking forward to that show. I think that will be very good to see. I think we've always wanted to see the earlier adventures of Pike, and company. That I know you and I both read the Marvel comic, the early Star Trek, the early voyages, when Marvel had the rights back in the 90s. It was a very good comic book series. I didn't like their version of April, which they made an admiral, which was incorrect. He was a Commodore, but until he became an ambassador. And they made him sort of a George, the Patton, kind of in the mold of George C. Scott's version of Patton, which was not how we saw April in other versions. But outside of that one issue and that one, thing, I thought they did some remarkable stories, and the artwork was really spot on. It was really, really good, I thought.
Yeah, I enjoyed a lot of what they did in the comics with Star Trek. Star Wars, when Marvel had it, I wasn't that happy with the space rabbits and stuff.
Yeah, I remember, and boy, I don't think I have it anymore, but I remember getting Star Wars #1 and a few other issues, but it just didn't grab me. Whereas when, say, obviously when Star Trek came out, when Marvel first had it and had the motion picture, obviously I picked that up. But Marvel also had Battlestar Galactica, the original, and I loved what they did. I love that. And when, and of course Marvel had Doctor Who, so they really had a good corner of sci-fi. They had lost the rights to well, I think the comic was canceled because it just wasn't selling the post motion picture stories. But before Wrath of Khan, and then DC quickly grabbed it after the success of Wrath of Khan. But nobody adapted Wrath of Khan until decades later, which was ironic.
Yeah, I enjoyed the whole run of comics, and again, some of them were unlikely, but then again, Star Trek was sometimes very unlikely too.
Yeah.
But they were a lot of fun. They've done a lot of interesting things with the series, and I had the short takes, the little mini episodes, and one of them was even based on Jason and the Argonauts. I forget the title of it, but it was one set in the future with the person that Michael links up with. I forget his name. But anyway, he's in that one too. That introduced him before he appeared on the show, and it had a very strong Jason the Argonaut overtones too. If you're familiar with the myth, there were all sorts of.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Oh.
And anyway, I'm gonna watch them as I can watch them. It might take some time. Like, I forget what the show was called with Seth MacFarlane. There was like a Star Trek homage, but actually was pretty good.
The Orville.
The Orville, yeah.
Which is returning finally for its third season. It's almost taken 3 years to get it, and it's on Hulu, which I do not have. So I hope that will be available through the library or something, through syndication or something, because I'm not getting another streaming service. I
No.
enjoyed that show. It was very much an homage to Next Gen in particular. Norm Macdonald lent the voice of this globular alien, which sadly, he's not with us anymore either. So I don't know what they'll do with that character. But I really enjoyed that show. I was very sorry that they made the move from Fox, and just didn't keep it on regular network TV. I don't know if they, but it was expensive to produce. And I think that was what Seth MacFarlane said was one of the factors that had them moving from Fox to Hulu. I guess they thought it would be financed or something. I don't know how that all works, but it will be back, and I don't know how I will get to see it. There's a comic book out for the Orville, and I got to say, I almost picked a comic, that issue up, the one that I spotted in my local comic book store, and the artwork was amazing. It was almost like photographs. It was really, really nice.
Yeah, I couldn't collect those all. They all looked very appealing, but I had to pass on them for now. Eventually, I'll read them. I'll find them in bargain bins,
Yeah,
or
me
I'll
too.
collect them in graphic novel form, which is a lot cheaper.
Yeah, I think that's smarter, because single issues, and that was the only one that was available, and it was a continued story, and I was like, I'll just wait. I'd rather lay out more money and get the graphic novel and get the complete story than hope that I can pick up the other ones and finish the story, because I'm sure it was probably multi-part, so more than just another issue. I'm sure it was probably four parts or something like that. So
I'm making some changes to what I'm doing, just to be, because less intensive in terms of time or commitment. I am changing the group that was supposed to be the role-playing game we were doing. The pandemic doesn't seem to be passing, so my doing role-playing games in New Jersey based on it are not going to happen anytime soon. So rather than build up the expectation, I just removed it. But I'm personally looking for what happened to the Olympians, and I'm chronicling my journey. And then whoever wants to participate, they could join the group or not, So I'll keep it going that way. And again, there's less of a commitment on people's time and energy, and then we'll see. And then I'm taking the group that was built around the concept that we have on Facebook, and I'm just making it about this show. So it'll be where you can access all the different shows and, keep up with what everybody's doing and so forth. And there'll be an update on what's going on with the other stuff, but it won't be as focused on the other stuff. So this way, ultimately, my Star Trek will be the group where I'm searching for the Olympians, the group that chronicles our shows and news about everybody who's on the show, and then this video telecast. So that'll be what it's all about, and I'll eventually introduce more and more information about the vessel, the Pride of Olympus, and where we're patrolling and how we tie into everything, and just let it move at its own pace on that, without striving to do anything else at this point with it. So that's the news that I have to report. I'm also moving forward with the community wellness. So if you or anybody in Region 7 can send me like a monthly update to how people are doing with the fitness thing, I'll be glad to post it in the fitness things, that this is what people in Starfleet are doing, trying to create a better future where everybody is more physically fit. And then so we just have like a news thing and put it in the Facebook groups.
I was a little bit bad this week. I did not do as my exercises every day as I normally did. I was feeling a little tired this week. Only today did I finally feel like I had some energy. I was like dragging through the week. I had a couple of nights where I didn't sleep well, and I kind of made excuses and just, so, but I'm thankfully feeling better. So I will get back on my regiment and starting tonight, actually. After we're done, I think I'll get some walking in and pop in that video get back on the track, literally.
I'm sure you will. Yeah, I've had days when I don't have as much energy as normal. So what I did was I created this leveled workout where, depending on how much energy I have, I do this way. I don't miss a workout, because then there's all that beating yourself up because you missed a workout. So this way I don't miss the workout. I just don't do as intensive a workout. And sometimes in the process of just doing the simple workout, all of a sudden the energy will come,
Yeah.
in me, and I'll be able to do a lot more, but I'll commit to at least finishing the step down version, which isn't that hard and isn't that time
Right.
consuming. And this way I could tell myself, well, I did something and it does contribute, maybe not as much as I would have liked, but I did something, so I could let go of that and just move forward the other
Yep.
day.
Yep. Doing something is better than doing nothing. And that was one of the things that the instructor reminds us, that, that's in the video that I watch, is like, hey, 5 minutes, is better than no minutes. 10 minutes
Right.
is better than 5 minutes, and you do what you can when you can. So that's always encouraging.
Do you use any mental techniques, like with affirmations or meditation or visualization or anything like? Because I found that that's helpful too.
I think that would help, maybe just before or afterwards, but I kind of do it during the middle of the day when I'm working, but want to take a break away from the screen.
Mhm.
And then just, it's actually in the DVD. I just pop it on, so I'm actually watching her, and sometimes she has a whole audience. Sometimes it's just her. It's some of the videos that my wife had been using for years. So I'm basically visualizing, duplicating what she's doing. But then there's sometimes I don't follow it exactly to the letter. If they're suddenly moving to something else, I might continue to do the thing I was doing, and then move to another portion of the living room, so that I'm not walking on the same portion of carpet, wearing, so that it's equally worn down. But
Yeah,
I think I will try to do that as a separate exercise, meditation and things like that. I think that would be immensely helpful, especially maybe before bed or something like that, because I know that's been probably one of the reasons I've had, some low energy, because I was going to bed maybe a little too late, or I think especially the night where the invasion happened, I unfortunately got fixated into that,
me too.
and watched and was so horrified and disgusted and angry, and then actually even dreamt part of my dream mixed in with that. It through news, is the weirdest thing, and I just didn't sleep well. So I think that's, this week I had a couple of nights like that, which caught up to me. I think that was part of the reason, and a big mug of coffee doesn't always correct everything.
No, but it helps.
Yes, it helps, but it
Yeah,
doesn't prevent the 3 o'clock slump with that, I call
no,
it.
no. Yeah, I learned that meditation keeps me calmer, and not that it makes your life easier. Your life is still what your life is. You have all the challenges you always had before, but you're able to take them more in stride. So that I find, and remain calm. So you still have to deal with things. It's not like you don't have to deal with anything and you're all blissed out. But still, you don't react to things as readily as before. So that
Yeah.
helps. And then also, because I like comic books and science fiction, in my visualizations, I imagine like futuristic exercise equipment, like the Jack Kirby might design for Asgard or for Olympus or for the Eternal. And I use those. I'm in one of these gyms in one of these futuristic comic book places where everything is geared towards making you as powerful and as muscular as possible and as healthy as possible. So I spent a little bit of time, and again, you can't do that and not work out. You still have to work out.
Right.
But I find that I find that it motivates me, and it gives my workouts meaning. That somehow my workouts from this other place will translate into what I'm doing here and will build the same type of health that I'm aiming for. So I try to have fun with the workouts like I try to have fun with other things. And I find that those things help a great deal. And Arnold used to tell himself that, like he used to tell himself that he was Zeus, and when he was working out, or that his biceps were like mountains, and so I've worked for Arnold. Yeah. So I took a clue from Arnold. Arnold's doing vegan bodybuilding these days. He's mostly a vegan, yeah, and he still works out, but he I think he says like 80% vegan in his food right now.
Huh. That is cool. I think he's going to play or has played recently Zeus.
Yeah,
I read something about a project that involved him.
Some commercials.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, during the Super Bowl, he played Zeus, and Selma Hayek played Hera, and Ralph Moeller, who played Conan, he was Poseidon in these commercials.
Huh.
So Zeus and Hera retired. They moved to the suburbs, and everybody's sitting on Zeus to charge up their things with electricity. And
I can't believe I missed that. Oh, maybe that was around the time of the halftime show, or just before the halftime show.
On YouTube, and the director's cuts are on YouTube too. Where
I'll have to catch that.
You didn't see. I even put them on my page. Because, they were really interesting, and I love Arnold. I love Greek mythology. So it was like the best of both worlds in clips. There were, I think, 2 commercials. And then there was the director's cut of what they cut away from the commercials. And then, like, you have a small dog, I have a small dog. Arnold had a small Pegasus, a tiny Pegasus that was actually a dog. So it was very cute.
Very cool. I'll catch that.
Now we're running out of time. How can people get in contact with you? How can they get involved with the Challenger, or with Region 7, or with Starfleet?
They can check out region7.com and also check out our Facebook page. Probably the better bet would be to try Starfleet Region 7 Facebook page. And of course, the USS Challenger, our website is USSChallenger.org. We have a Facebook page, of course, and it's USS Challenger. You can email me at beamaboard@aol.com. I got a bunch of emails, but just use that one. I'm getting lazy when it comes to checking all my accounts. That's the one I seem to be checking more often, even though I have a Gmail account. But just email beamaboard@aol.com. And that's the way to reach out. We have Challenger is meeting live, and we'll have our next meeting the first Sunday of the month, which will be, what is it, next Sunday? Not this Sunday, but next Sunday. My God, February just blew by, just like January did. I do think somehow that time is moving faster since the pandemic, or maybe because we're getting older. I don't know, because the weeks just go by faster, and before I know it, hey, it's Friday again, or
Yeah, that's how I feel too. Like it's the end of the month already, and the world is moving fast. I think partially it is getting older, because time then becomes incrementally smaller in terms of the totality of your life. So the passing hours are less of a percentage of that life. So it just seems like it goes by really fast.
I think so. But the important thing is you enjoy what you're doing in between point A and point B, between Monday and Friday, or Monday and Sunday night.
And that is an excellent thought upon which to leave today's conversation. Bob, thank you. You're awesome. I really had a great time speaking with you and catching
Always
up
have a
with you.
great time talking to you, Hercules. You're great.
Thank you. And thanks to everybody who's going to tune in later on YouTube. Today is Friday, so this should definitely be up by Sunday morning at midnight
Cool.
on Saturday. So be well, everybody. Until next time, joyous journeys and amazing adventures.